going to be based on what you fear. On the right, you can see Todd Anderson, Tim Lyons on the left, and I am going to be rooting against Counterbalance.
Okay. I'll take Todd's side. I'll take Counterbalance. I think that game one looks like it's probably pretty rough for Todd. He doesn't have much in the way of disruption. He does have Counterbalance, and Counterbalance is very powerful against the Reanimator deck because so many of its spells cost 1 and 2 mana, and those are the points at which the Counterbalance deck has the highest concentration of hits. So even a random flip from Counterbalance can sometimes counter something.
Okay, opening with
Grove of the Burn Willows.
I don't know.
That's a land I like.
What is the rest of his hand?
I don't know, but I can't imagine that's the best land.
I don't like that because it says so much.
Well, he might not know what his opponent is. Oh, he has a Cascade Bluffs in his hand.
I still like opening with the Cascade Bluffs. It gives away less information, and you're not gonna. I don't think he has anything to use the mana on that Grove.
No. Maybe his opponent, will play around Lightning Bolt.
Okay, so anyway, turn one, Thoughtseize?
It is a Thoughtseize. Yep. So
here's what I got.
And what is this hand? So there's Life from the Loam, Tarmogoyf. Can't tell what that blue card is.
Threads of Disloyalty.
Another Tarmogoyf and Jace. So not a very good hand in this matchup, or I don't know what matchup it's a particularly good hand in, but. So we are going to have, it looks like Tarmogoyf coming down here. Tim gains a life. Tarmogoyf comes down, and it's already pretty big. It is a 3/4, thanks to Jace being in the yard, a Thoughtseize, and a land.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Tim Lyons just put a huge thing into play, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't have it.
And
Todd draws a Grove of the Burn Willows.
So Todd really not... Oh, what is he doing?
He's going to burn or otherwise do something to his opponent. Oh, nope, just extra Tarmogoyf. My bad. Take 3.
Okay, so Todd doesn't know his opponent's on Reanimator yet.
He does that actually for if you've got a counter spell, then there'll be a Tarmogoyf in the yard.
That's one thing that you see. A lot of people have very, very set in their habits, and they're like, okay, I want to attack first, then play my spells. Well, when you have a Tarmogoyf, you often want to play your spells first, because if your opponent counters your spell, it can make your Tarmogoyf bigger.
Yep. And now I think we're giving up. What do we got there? Todd's hand is completely known because that Grove's in play. He knows that the hand is Jace, Punishing Fire, Threads of Disloyalty. This Entomb is going to be therefore unmolested.
Yeah, Entomb and
Jin-Gitaxias might be the play.
I mean, Todd has nothing that he can stop him with right now. He has Threads of Disloyalty and Punishing Fire. Really not anything that he wants in this matchup.
I think you get Jin-Gitaxias.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine
what is that? Is that a
Sphinx of the Steelwind?
That's probably fine too. I mean, a Tarmogoyf can't get through it, and he can.
His opponent's on Rug, so that's going to be its pro green and red and blue. I don't even know what colors they have to protect him from.
Pro, not white.
It's red-green, so it has lifelink as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be able to get in the way of those Tarmogoyfs and make sure that Tim is in no danger of dying. So Exhume brings it back. That's interesting. So, as the creature of choice,
I would have liked a Jin-Gitaxias because I think it would be safe, and then you're completely refilled. And at the end of that turn, you're completely refilled. You'll do it again.
How much damage are you getting hit for? I think it's not clear that Jin-Gitaxias can actually race the Tarmogoyfs is the thing. That you may be putting yourself in a position where if your opponent has anything, that you're in serious trouble. Whereas here, given what he knows about Todd's hand, the Sphinx is putting him in an absolutely dominating position. So Sphinx of the Steel Wind is a flying first strike vigilance lifelink pro red pro green. So 6/6.
End of the turn, Todd throws in a Punishing Fire for 2, gain life for 1 total net damage.
So ding, not really enough. He really needs that Jace back. And yeah,
dings himself for 1 to get another land.
So Todd with triple Grove here. Not really the mana base that you want to be fighting anything other than, gunning down small creatures with Punishing Fire.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this deck.
Yeah, I think that Todd's deck is pretty poorly set up for this matchup overall. He doesn't have that many. He has a lot of cards that don't do much unless they come down in combination with other cards. Like counterbalance, he needs to get his counterbalance early in order for it to have an impact on this particular matchup. And he's just so many of his cards just don't interact well with the cards.
Yeah, I mean, I see one unfair interaction to my mind, and that's top counterbalance, because Punishing Fire is only unfair against a very narrow subsection of opponents.
So
there's the counterbalance,
and
but
that's game. So Todd did have Oblivion Rings and Swords in his deck that he could draw, but given his Grove of the Burn Willows there, he had no mana he could actually cast them with. He had no white mana, so he is Rug, counterbalance, splashing for Swords and Ring. So going to the sideboard, Todd does have 4 copies of Leyline of the Void, which he cannot actually cast. So
is there no way to
there's
cast
no way
them?
to cast them.
That is hilarious. Okay, well maybe his opponent will lay an Urborg. Oh, he doesn't have Urborg in his deck, because Ely had an Urborg in his deck, so...
Interesting. So, Todd, how do you think this sideboarding is going to go? Todd has access to Spell Pierce, Swords to Plowshares, Click, Blasts, and Leyline, all of which I think are reasonable to bring in.
I think that everything in his sideboard is reasonable to bring in except for the Thrun.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's 13 cards, and I don't think that he has 13 cards he wants to take out and still be a deck. Punishing Fire is almost nothing in this matchup.
Fire and Threads certainly come out.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 cards that automatically come out.
That is 5 cards. I think Oblivion Ring has a utility. So
I don't know that you want 6 total Oblivion Ring plus Swords. I think you can rely on just Swords.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Though, I mean, O-Ring is largely in the deck to counter 3 mana cards, and there really aren't any in the. There is Show and Tell after sideboarding.
Right. That's. I mean, I don't know, honestly. Like looking at this sideboard and looking at the main deck.
I don't like this deck.
I don't like it at all.
I don't know.
Okay, let's look at the other deck, actually. And I think Terastodon is a reasonable card, just to be able to potentially nuke out a whole swath of the board. There can be down a Counterbalance and a Sensei's Divining Top, and you might Show and Tell out a Terastodon.
Pithing Needle is a card that I think could come in here. Pithing Needle can shut down
If he can identify
that
there's he did not see a top, he did not see a Counterbalance.
Well, and as we've been saying all weekend, it's very important to keep abreast of what other people are doing. And Jerry has talked about this Counterbalance deck. He's played this Counterbalance deck at previous tournaments.
Well, it depends on how much Tim Lyons is hooked in.
That's what I'm saying.
Know, yeah.
If Tim Lyons reads Star City Games Premium all the time, he should know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's the thing. I always say that to people. Read everything. Read everything you can. Because even if you don't like what's being written...
Other people are reading it.
Other people are reading it.
You get value out of knowing what other people are reading.
Okay, but I think Pithing Needle could be of value.
Spell Pierce. Show and Tell is a likely inclusion given its ability to play around any sort of graveyard hate. Though seeing a rogue mana base, it's not clear what graveyard hate you anticipate.
I mean, what he showed there, I mean, who knows? Maybe he's a Delver deck with Punishing Fire.
Maybe.
You know,
maybe.
like, I'm just saying in terms of like what you would look at him and be like...
What you could imagine his deck being.
And I might look at Todd Anderson and say, this is a guy that wants to play Delver and everything. You know, like... It's sort of like, you know, you look at a certain player and you're like, this is the kind of guy that wants to play something and everything. I mean, I can name a couple people that I would expect to play the same style of thing and everything. A certain Guillaume.
Yeah,
you know, like
true.
Chapin. Chapin is someone you
Chapin
can...
always wants to be playing control.
Wants to be.
Pretty much always is.
Yep. I expect if I were playing you, I would be probably likely playing against a fair deck that has powerful cards. Honestly, you know, like...
Yeah, absolutely. So, I initially thought, you know, maybe Todd was positioned well for this matchup, but the more I sort of see the deck and the more I really think about how this is going to work, I'm not a fan of what's going on that side of the table.
I mean,
I definitely like Tim Lyons in this matchup.
I think he basically has Counterbalance and then stuff. And a lot of other Counterbalance decks, what I've kind of liked about them is it just felt like they didn't have as much of the filler.
Yeah. This deck just has... It has so many... It's trying to do so many different things.
And look at the mana base. This looks like a mana base you would have built like 12 years ago.
No, mine would have had four Cities of Brass, despite my opponents all have 4 Rishadan ports.
I seem to recall you had a deck once where it had like 4 or 5 of the Odyssey lands or whatever.
He's got a Sky Cloud Expanse.
I know, I see the Sky Cloud
Expanse.
Was it Huey that was like, I've got this Kibler deck and I've got 4 lands in play, but I have no mana.
The deck actually tried to cast Haunting Echoes, Abushan, Cephalid Emperor, and Violent Eruption in a mana base with terrible, terrible mana fixing in the format. We had eggs, man. We had eggs.
We had eggs.
Yeah,
True.
That deck was the worst deck I've ever played in a Pro Tour by a large margin.
Hey, sorry to bring it up.
I still made day 2 was the insane thing. I was able to defeat people with my horrible deck.
Mana matters. I mean, one of the things that I think Zvi in recent years has really pushed is pushing the boundary of mana. And we saw that with the Mythic deck a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. I think we even saw it in the mono green deck from, was that Hawaii? I forget where that was.
Oh, the Vengevine deck?
Yeah.
In San Juan.
San Juan, thank you. I knew it was an island. There are so many events now.
Yeah.
It's all muddling together now. Like, which island was it on? Which European country? Which American city?
I'm waiting for them to have Grand Prix Ibiza. I would go to that for sure.
You know, I would love to see Grand Prix Curacao.
Yeah, you'd get a lot of Hall of Famers at that one.
There would be a lot of Hall of Famers at Grand Prix Curacao. A shout out to any of you out there on the islands.
We miss you.
I can't remember. What's the name of the company in Lost?
The Umbrella Corporation?
No, not that one.
I never watched Lost.
You didn't? You didn't? Okay.
No. I'm lost with your reference. I think I just was possessed by the spirit of LSV for a moment. So players still shuffling up, and I think we may have technically gone past the time limit for sideboarding and shuffling.
We've actually seen this a lot in the feature match area.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, people take quite a while, and you technically only have 3 minutes between games to sideboard, shuffle, and present. So if you go over that time limit, you will, and a judge is paying attention, you will receive a warning for slow play. And this is something that a type of warning that you can accumulate throughout a tournament and get penalties for. So it's important to be able to make these decisions quickly and to not really engage in too much idle chatter with your opponent between games.
It comes back to me via the powers of the internet that for a while, a couple of us were calling Curacao the Dharma Initiative.
Okay.
Todd Anderson looking at his hand, keeps it, says go. Leyline as a pregame.
There it is. And did Todd mulligan to 5 to find this leyline?
Force of Will,
He mulligan to 5 just to find an uncastable leyline. So there it is. So he's at least, I guess this is his plan.
Now remember, Show and Tell is a common side-in for the other deck. And it's precisely for this reason.
Yeah, and Tim also has access to Echoing Truth in his sideboard. So
now, we don't know if he brought in all of that or any of that, but there are certainly outs.
Yeah, that said, this is a very good spot for Todd to be in. He's already put his opponent in a position where he has to deal with this leyline before his deck can do anything.
What do you take here? That's Brainstorm, Counterbalance, Force of Will, Scalding Tarn. No lands in play for Todd yet.
In many situations, I would advocate taking Brainstorm here, but this is not one of them.
Yeah.
This is a situation in which Tim needs to find a way to break through that leyline on the void before his deck can do anything. I think he needs to take Force of Will.
I actually think you should take Counterbalance.
That's also reasonable.
I think the game could go long enough that the Counterbalance can come out and all the free counters that can happen.
I can't see Tim's hand right now.
He takes the Brainstorm. And Todd top decks a land that is perfect for him. That's awesome. Now Todd can wait on that Brainstorm until he's able to do the Brainstorm plus sack of the Scalding Tarn. I see Force of Will, Brainstorm, fast card, Entomb, Careful Study in Tim's hand. Careful Study? Careful Study when there's a leyline in play is basically a really bad Brainstorm.
Yeah, so we're just digging and losing some reanimation effects.
It's a swamp. And I think there's an Entomb in his hand. He got rid of reanimation effects just because they're not so good right now.
All right, so we're going to see Counterbalance come down this turn.
Yikes.
So, despite mulling into 5, Todd was able to find his leyline and put Tim Lyons in a rough spot right off the bat before the game even begins. Or rather, because he mulliganed to 5. and Counterbalance. And I believe this may elicit a Force of Will from Tim. Maybe not.
Counterbalance is... Oh, ouch.
Ooh, and Tarmogoyf.
Todd evaluates the board, sees that he can indeed cast Tarmogoyf, casts it.
It's like, okay, well, I have a plan. It's to do very little.
Force of Will.
That's...
And Counterbalance as a flip. 0. And does Todd fight over Tarmogoyf? Force, tossing Force. He wants this game to be very short.
Yeah, he needs a clock. He wants to close out the game before Tim has a chance to find a way to answer the Leyline of the Void. And that's completely reasonable. Todd really doesn't have a long game plan here. So Tim is entombing to thin his deck, I guess, maybe to shuffle.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, gotta find something. He entombs a Reanimate out of his deck.
That's excellent, actually.
And he entombs again. Oh, wow, this is funny.
End of the turn, entomb, getting rid of cards he can't cast. That's awesome. Now remember, Todd Anderson's graveyard is real, where Tim Lyons' graveyard does not exist. To be fair, his graveyard exists, there's just nothing in it, and nothing will go to it.
The zone does exist. So, Tim is...
And he draws...
one card?
Oh yeah, one card.
So he's... Jeez. He needs to assemble quite a bit here. He needs to get a Show and Tell and a Fatty. And now he draws a Reanimate.
In with the Tarmogoyf. Land. He draws. There's the land he needs. So now he needs just Show and Tell and or Echoing. No, Echoing Truth won't do it. Just Show and Tell and Fatty.
Is that all? Is that all?
Just.
And for Todd to have nothing that can answer them.
And nothing on top of the library.
See, he's fetching now, so...
Fin. What do you think of that double entomb play? I mean, it does make his Careful Studies worse later on, but they are completely dead, and he is taking, completely dead cards out of his deck. It's such a small thinning, though. I mean, it's almost negligible, but...
If his deck still contains... if his deck does contain Echoing Truth, then I don't think I would do it. But if his deck has no Echoing Truths, and his only outs here are to Show and Tell...
There is a Show and Tell.
Ooh.
Show and Tell.
No, that's a Fairy Macabre.
Oh, it's Fairy Macabre. Wow. Oh, he's checking. He's checking for a 3. Spell Snare.
All right. Well, Tim still does not have a Fatty. So if Tim just draws a Fatty here, he can Show and Tell right into play.
Go, Fairy Macabre. He's coming.
Beat down.
He's coming. Who to beat down?
Windrake. Go.
I have been killed by Fairy Macabre attacking before. It is sad.
I have not been subject to such embarrassment.
Yes.
And he draws a land.
Oh, he's away from Day's problems now. Second Leyline. He can't cast it.
And no attacks, no blocks from the Fairy Macabre.
Careful study. Let's see what it says. 2.
Oh, that's a Force of Will. No,
that's a Counterbalance.
Okay, so draw.
Draw. I see another Show and Tell.
So you have Show and Tell. Just need a Fatty. Todd currently has no action. He's gonna fetch away that. Yeah, gonna fetch away that Counterbalance.
Goodbye, Counterbalance. Now that Fairy Macabre is looking more likely to be a blocker.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna have to get in the way pretty soon.
You don't want to wait too long because something could go wrong. It could be knocked out of the way, and then you're just dead.
Yeah, you don't want to only block on the lethal turn. You want to block on the turn before the lethal turn, because if Todd has a plow, though if Todd has a plow, he's probably in bad. Is that a Vendilion Click?
Is it? Well, he's got 2 Show and Tell.
Well,
so if the Show and Tell resolves, the click can come. No, that one responds to the Show and Tell.
Right.
Get the card out of your hand
during his upkeep or whatever. So click. That's.
Wah wah wah. Keep them both. There you go.
Well, is Tim dead? No, he goes down to 1 life. So if he draws Sphinx of the Steelwind, he can.
Is that a brainstorm? Just a
he must be at. Is he at 2? He must be at 2, going to 1.
Then we might have the life totals wrong, so we're...
Yeah, it looks like he's at 2.
I imagine Todd would say you're dead if Tim was dead.
Yeah. He might notice.
Okay, right here. All of the cards come down to this top deck, and it still might not be good enough.
So...
Blazing Archon would do it as well.
Archon. Archangel.
Elish Norn would do it.
Daze.
Daze does not do it.
Daze is not big enough.
You just get a stupefied look on your face with that. Just, to game 3. Now
right.
Tim Lyons knows something that he didn't know before, which is that Todd is packing Leylines.
Yep. So that's it's not a card that you generally anticipate seeing out of a deck that can't actually cast it. So usually, when you're playing against a deck that may have Leyline, you will board in some answers to Leyline, like Echoing Truth. That's the whole reason a card like Echoing Truth is in your sideboard. But when you're playing against a deck that has no black mana, you're just like, okay, well, he's not going to have Leyline, and then, a Leyline? Well, this is awkward.
Okay. Going into game 3, we now have... excuse me. We now have Tim Lyons on the play and aware of what can come out of the situation from Todd here. We're going to likely see, if Echoing Truth wasn't there before, it'll probably be in. If he didn't have a full set of show and tells, if he only brought in, let's say, 2, which would be strange, then he probably has all 3 at this point. The Fairy Macabre, I think, probably will come...
I don't really know why Macabre was in his deck to begin with.
Well,
I guess
actually,
it can...
I've got a thought. If he thought that Todd was a Delver deck, it's a crappy blocker of Delver. I'm trying to stretch here.
It gets rid of Punishing Fire. I mean, but really, you're not playing a deck that cares about Punishing Fire.
You're fighting the wrong war.
Right.
I mean, let's do a fight over a card we don't care about, and in so doing, remove our resources against things we do care about.
Right. So, while I definitely thought that Tim had a pretty serious advantage in this matchup, if Todd is able to stick a Leyline again, I think that he may be in pretty good shape. Now Tim does know that they're in. We're going to see Echoing Truth in his deck. What do you think he takes out, other than those Fairy Macabres?
I want the Fairy Macabres out of there.
Yeah, those should be gone, I think.
Absolutely. I think you might take down your a little bit of your reanimation. Okay. Just because you already have now seen Careful Study, Counterbalance as well. Mm-hmm. And so just having a diverse number of casting costs, some number of 1s, some number of 2s, and then your 3s at Show and Tell would be a spot I would consider going. So just a little bit of shaving down. And also, I might look at my creatures and try to make it as narrow as possible with what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the reanimation package that these decks play in their main deck is intended to be very broad, so you can entomb for what you need against particular matchups. And I think that Tim can afford to get rid of, say, Imperial Archangel. You can probably get rid of... Well, I mean, he did go for Sphinx of the Steel Wind in game 1, but I don't. That was a
corner case. I think.
I don't think that Sphinx is generally what you're going to want.
Nearby, Magic players Drew Levin and Nicole Leister are playing the Ascension app. Awesomeness. Okay.
It wasn't even me promoting it there.
I just love that game. I just can't help it.
I agree with you.
Okay. Todd is mulliganing. Is it the aggressive mulligan once again?
I mean, if you have Leyline in the Void in your deck, you have to mulligan to it when you can't cast it.
How good does your hand have to be to not mulligan it?
I don't know that Todd's deck
has a good
hand. Has a well. I mean, realistically, what hands can this deck have that are actually legitimately good enough to beat a good Reanimator hand that don't include Leyline of the Void?
I think Force of Will, Counterbalance, Sensei's Divining Top, Source of Plowshares, and 3 lands. Well, one other blue source.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Countertop and Force of Will blue card, I could see keeping it.
Yeah.
So
Tim looks like he's in good spirits. He lost that last game, but he still looks like he's in good shape. Feels.
I mean, I think that once he actually has a way to get rid of Leyline, he's much more in the game. So Todd, is he keeping his 6? Oh, and
we've got a fetch, I think, going on here from Tim Lyons.
So has Todd played a land already?
I cannot tell.
All right, no.
Tim is on the play.
Oh, Tim is in the play,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So Todd does not have a ley line. So any ley lines he draws are total blanks from here on out.
I know it can be show and tell into play.
That is true.
So let's pretend Tim Lyons show and tells, puts a Jin Gitaxias into play, Todd puts a Leyline into play, and then Swords' Jin. That's a possibility. Thoughtseize. Red Blast, Spell Snare, land. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Well, that is a hand.
Yeah, that's a hand, technically speaking.
Yep.
Those are cards. So Todd draws.
Swords to Plowshares.
Wow, it's a pretty good draw. It's a card that it's nice that Tim does not know about.
One thing that Todd does have going for him here, he has 4 Brainstorms and 4 Sensei's Divining Tops, so that if he does happen to draw a Leyline, he can get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's still a card.
He's currently playing with 4 Ace of Spades in his hand.
Yeah, except for he won't get kicked out of the tournament for having the Ace of Spades in
It's
there.
true.
Careful study from Tim.
Studies.
Is that
Studies
Leviathan?
up, finds... that's Jin Gitaxias.
Is it?
Yeah.
I always struggle with those.
Jin Gitaxias is the one with the big nose.
There with double Jin Gitaxias.
I don't even know if he has a nose.
Exhume.
That's going to get spell snared,
Duh.
I think. Yep.
Boo.
So draw the spell snare out of Todd's hand. Now Todd's had... Wow. Todd has had some good draw steps since that Thoughtseize.
Show and tell. Oh, doctor.
And Todd can just let this resolve if he wants. Yeah, Todd can. You can't put a. Can you put a planeswalker into play?
You cannot put a Planeswalker into play.
Is that a Terastodon? Is that a nasty Terasti?
Nasty Terasti. Yeah, you can only choose artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card.
Okay. So he's going to destroy. What is he doing with this Terastodon? What would you do?
I might kind of do the getting here on myself. Just make a huge clock.
Okay.
I mean, we have to imagine that Todd does not
I
have
think that's
the
reasonable.
answers.
I think I want 18 power. Yeah, I think I want 18 power is totally reasonable. And he's hitting.
I don't like even.
Yeah, I don't like giving Todd a beast. If you're gonna make your own guys,
go do it.
Either get all of his or all of yours. I think either you're trying to put him out of the game, or you're trying to create an army. In this situation, by hitting Todd's land, he lets Todd use Swords to Plowshares to kill the Terastodon, and if Todd draws a land, he can just Jace a token away, and then there's the 2 tokens trade, and there's no tokens in Todd as Jace. If Tim actually hits 3 of his own lands, he has 2 elephants up, and there's very little that I think Todd can do to get back into the game.
I agree with you. I think that, yeah, this.
There's three permanents that just say token on them. So, and now we know that Todd has Jace in his hand. If Todd draws a land, this is a very bad spot for Tim Lyons. And there's the land. So Todd fetches twice, and he will play Jace and bounce one of those elephants, leaving us with a elephant-on-elephant standoff, and Todd with a Jace the Mind Sculptor. I imagine he's kicking himself for his decision right now.
Yeah, I mean, it says destroy up to 3 permanents.
Yeah,
you're not
only hit his own, too.
You're not required to hit all 3.
He actually, destroying Todd's really just didn't accomplish anything. Granted, he did put him off of Jace mana right away, but that's it. If he put Todd in a position where he has an extra elephant, and he is still able to draw a land and cast Jace immediately. I really don't like that play.
Tim shuffling in the hope to make something
and now,
magical come to the top of his
now
library.
what does Tim do? I mean, he's in a position facing a Jace. He has one card in hand. Is this a brainstorm? And
He brainstormed 4 cards.
Okay.
Brainstormed 4 cards. He does have the order correct now.
And he just shuffled his library, so he has no information about the order of his library. So what's going to happen here is a random card should be shuffled into his library, and he'll get to look at those 3, I believe.
I don't know. I think he saw the other 2 cards.
Right, but
Yeah.
what will happen? I believe the correct resolution of this, from a judge's perspective,
Is put the
is that
4th
one
card.
of these cards is randomly put back into the library because the players had no knowledge of the order of the library before. One of the cards is randomly put back into the library, and the library is reshuffled. I believe.
I think that would be an excellent resolution of it. I'm not sure if that's how the current rules work. I think you could be correct, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The order of those cards should be random, so one of them should be randomly put back. I think. So, that said, I don't really know what combination of cards that Tim really can hit off that brainstorm to really put himself in a good position.
Right.
So the players are currently awaiting a ruling from a judge.
I think that this was Tim's game to win.
I really agree. I think if that Terastodon had entered play, and I mean Todd was there with his Todd could have force of willed that show and tell with his Jace, and he was anticipating a creature that either he could source the Plowshares or he could bounce with Jace. The only cards that Tim could have had that were really, really bad for Todd would be Inkwell Leviathan or Terastodon. He had the Terastodon, but he chose to give Todd an elephant and put himself into this position where Jace is actually likely going to beat him.
I mean, I almost imagine, given that Tim had such a kind of poor hand, why not give yourself 18 power?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I really think that hitting his own land, giving himself just an army, even if one of those gets plowed, one of them gets bounced, he kills Jace with the one of the remaining elephants, hits Todd, and still has 6 power in play.
Pretty much. I was just waiting for it, I was like, oh, I can still win this game. I was like, I thought I was winning this game.
We just wait here now. Looking at this, I mean, I imagine that if I were to watch this match play out, even after sideboarding, a lot of times, I think Tim has the edge.
I agree with you. I think that Todd really needs to rely on very specific things coming up, like having that Leyline of the Void in his opening hand, like his opponent, not having the appropriate creatures for something like a show and tell, and I think that overall the Reanimator deck is definitely favored in the matchup.
One of the things I really like about the Reanimator deck is that the Reanimator deck has so much redundancy in what it does. It can just have the same game happen all the time. Mm-hmm. Because if it's not a Jingataxias, a lot of the other cards are functionally interchangeable because it's just something big that makes something bad happen for your opponent.
In some cases, yes. I mean,
there
are very specific bullets that matter in very specific
circumstances. I'm not saying that there aren't bullets.
Right.
I'm not saying it doesn't have that aspect, but I'm saying that it's just something big and bad.
Yeah,
because the Entombs let you choose the bullet you want.
Exactly.
And if you don't have the Entombs, it's something big and bad.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, one of these is going to be big against you, so. So the players are discussing the ruling here. We haven't gotten any indication as to what is going to happen just yet.
Still waiting.
So, I'm surprised that this is a ruling that's taking this long. Maybe I'm wrong about what the infraction will be.
I think one of the things is that rational resolutions of cards like Brainstorm or other things like that, there's never it's impossible to get intent, right? Now, Tim, I believe, called the judge on himself, which is good, mm-hmm. Which is very, very good.
I always recommend that, by the way.
Yes.
Anytime you do something wrong, call judge.
Yes, I have knocked myself out of top 8s of $1,000 events because I'm like, that's a sideboard card. Mm-hmm. This is game 1. Judge. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, I definitely definitely have called many a judge of myself because sometimes I can be a little sloppy. Actually, one time
I'm a super sloppy player
at a SCG Legacy Open in Los Angeles. I want to say a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was playing a Bant deck, and I had both Brainstorm and Ponder in my deck. And on multiple occasions, cast my Ponder just as Brainstorm. I just cast it and drew 3, and I was like, oh, oops, that was Ponder, not Brainstorm. And I did it multiple times over the tournament, and that sort of infraction is.
I would be willing to take a small bet with you that
Okay.
I have called a judge on myself more.
I don't know how we would possibly resolve this. But,
I don't know either.
I think it's really possible. So we're gonna sit here and chat for a little bit. We're waiting for a resolution.
Waiting
for that.
for the
We'll get back
resolution
to the
of
players when we have one.
Yeah, one of the things I just feel like is really important. I think people play Magic for a lot of different reasons, and one of the reasons that I got into playing Magic was an outlet for the competitive nature that I have in me. I know in high school and in college, maybe were you a wrestler in college?
No, I wanted to eat in college.
Okay. Well, in high school, I was in cross country and track, and I also did some other stuff. I did like debate and forensics, and I had this very competitive nature. Went to college, and it was actually just too hard at the UW, at University of Wisconsin-Madison, to be involved in those things and be competitive. There was just, incredible competition there, but way beyond the level that I was at.
Sure.
And then I discovered tournament Magic, and it was this space to be competitive. So one of the reasons that I'm a fan of calling the judge on oneself.
Yeah.
For me, I don't want to win. I want to really win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I generally find. I mean, there are a lot of players who will take sort of rules lawyer-ish tactics.
Right.
They're looking for whatever sort of angle, whatever sort of edge they can get a win. And personally, I'm not a fan of that sort of thing. I'm a fan of while I think that getting a little edge over your opponent by being not necessarily dishonest, but slightly deceptive.
Right.
In terms of getting them to do things that you want them to do, that can be okay.
I think, for example, Patrick Chapin, when he cast Profane Command and said, Profane Command targeting all of my legal targets,
I think
had the Chameleon Colossus in play, which he
and get your
cannot
opponent
target.
to concede. I think
That's fine.
That's reasonable.
Totally fine with that.
But I think there are definitely people who skirt the line with those sort of things,
Yes.
and there are definitely people who try to hold people to little things with verbiage and stuff like that, people who write down, who go and there's multiple triggers that are happening, and they try to get someone with writing down a life total when someone is obviously intending to use another trigger or something like that. Those sort of things I think are a little beyond the sort of realm of being sportsmanlike.
I remember one moment I was playing against somebody. This was actually in St. Louis. It was at a PTQ, and it was during extended season one year. I forget for what. I think it was for Valencia. And I eventually qualified, I think maybe 2 qualifiers later than that, playing for top 8. And my opponent has out a Goblin Sharpshooter, and he does a bunch of stuff that involves goblins being sacked. And I kind of look a little bit at the Sharpshooter, and he's going quickly, and I'm like, you have to untap your Sharpshooter.
Yep.
And the reason being, it doesn't say may. Once the trigger gets to the point where it resolves, it is required to untap by the rules of the game.
Yep.
And as a result of me telling him to untap his Sharpshooter, I lost.
Yeah.
I would have won otherwise. And a spectator nearby was like, why did you do that? You were going to win. And I'm like,
you have to.
The rules of the game,
Yeah.
I have to enforce them. That Sharpshooter doesn't. If it said may, I would have been quiet as a mouse.
Yep.
I would have been sitting there like, whew. And actually, speaking of questions, you have come up in this.
I knew we were going to get to that.
Yeah. And the thing about it was, we talked about it, and someone was like, that seems super sketchy. And I'm like, if you think that a card is a may, I've got no problem with the idea that, it's not your card.
Yep.
And being like, that's a may. Okay, cool. You didn't do it. Awesome.
Yeah.
That is a game of Magic.
It is. So we have a head judge appeal for this ruling. So we're currently waiting on that. It's apparently much more complicated than I thought it was. So that's a reason that we have judges here, and I am not one of them.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I used to be a judge, but you had to know all kinds of stuff.
It's very hard.
Memorize things. And,
I definitely, I certainly appreciate all of the work all of the judges for Magic put in. It's impossible to have events like these without the great staff that we have. So thank you to everyone who is a part of the judge program out there.
Now, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's
you're
awesome, judges. Yay!
I was going to say one of the things that I'm a little bit frustrated about that's coming down from organized play is the move of a lot of tournaments away from tournament organizers, the great TOs that we've built up over the years, towards the store level events. Because I remember the day of store level events where there were PTQs. I remember there being terrible judges in stores.
Yep.
I remember, I don't have a problem with a store level event like a pre-release. I love the big old huge pre-releases. I wish they were back, but I don't have a at-heart problem with it. I have a nostalgia, sad little tear come down. But with tournaments where a plane flight to a pro tour is on the line, I don't want to have Joe Schmo and Sally whoever as the judges and have them do terrible things because they don't know how to judge and they're at their random store.
I mean, the judge program has done a great job at improving.
Here we go. We're back. And for those of you who are just joining us, this is the Star City Games Live Open Series. We had a resolution of a brainstorm happen. I believe what actually happened here is that we have a warning issued for a brainstorm which had an extra card. There was no known information or no information that was gleaned from it that couldn't be fixed. They fixed it, and now we're resolving the brainstorm.
We're now resolving the brainstorm, shuffling up the deck, and it looks like we have Echoing Truth. Echoing Truth is a good card here. Echoing Truth can bounce. No, Echoing Truth is a bad card. If you bounce a token, you bounce your token. Oh no!
He can pray for another card to come into his hand.
I will make my token a beast instead of an elephant. Echoing Truth, your elephant. So the information that we're getting is that because he didn't have any cards in his hand, the rule is looking at extra cards instead of drawing extra cards.
Okay.
Because he wasn't actually adding any cards to a hand of his own.
That's interesting.
So if for instance, he actually picked up those cards and put them in his hand, if he had, say, a single other card in hand and they had touched, it would be drawing extra cards, which is a significantly higher penalty. So that's actually sort of, to you players out there, be sure whenever you're playing any effect that looks at or draws multiple cards, lay them out and make sure you're looking at the appropriate amount before you actually put them in your hand.
I was informed by a judge who was hearing me talk that the store level events do require judges that are real judges. I would say, though, that tournament organizers tend to build up a judging staff who are excellent, and
That's
judges, they are people, and there are good people and there are bad people when it comes to work. TOs keep the good people around.
That's true. It's true. I mean, the judge program has done a great job of training judges over the years who are very, very aware of a lot of things that go on. And in particular, judges who have experience working at events of a competitive level like PTQs, like Star City Games Open events, they see a lot more than judges who, have historically worked more F&M level events, smaller events.
Okay, we see at the end of that turn, well, the way that plays out, Elephant attacks, Elephant blocks, no elephants remain. Todd takes his turn, lays a Sensei's Divining Top. Things are looking pretty poor for our hero, Tim Lyons. He's our hero because he's not playing Counterbalance. It is possible that this match...
My hero is Jace the Mind Sculptor right now.
I love me a Jace, but I am not a fan of the top. I mean, not to say... I think, one of the first people to talk about the top as, a great card, and Mike Flores said I was being silly and said, Silly Sully's Sylvan Library. But no, I think the card has proven itself.
Yeah, top, actually, I remember when I think it was Tom Lapilli wrote an article where he was sharing some of the... internal comments on a lot of cards that ended up being problematic, and there's a single comment on top during in the file, and it was like, oh, this is the sort of bad card that people love.
So we have an Entomb then at the end of turn to find hopefully a big thing that
it looks like, is that Imperial Archangel?
Thoughtseize off the top. What you got?
I think if you're Todd, I think you just Spell Pierce this. Or do you just let it resolve?
You might as well just
he's gonna top
in response and see.
Oh, he's
Void.
He's got a ley line of Void coming up.
That will never reach his hand.
Perfect. It might, but it might just go back.
Spell Pierce and Force of Will in hand. Take your pick. If I were Tim, I would get rid of the Spell Pierce.
It's a little interesting here because I don't understand why Todd wouldn't just Spell Pierce that.
I would be a Spell Pierce.
I would certainly Spell Pierce that because at bare minimum you're giving Tim the information that you have Force of Will in your
Absolutely.
hand.
Absolutely. Now we're going to see, hopefully, a brainstorm
You do
from Todd
2
Anderson.
damage to Tim because Thoughtseize resolves, but I don't think that's worth the information.
Okay. Jace casts Brainstorm. We see Tarmogoyf number 2, Leyline, and is that that's a
That was a Misty. So
yeah,
we're
Misty
gonna see
Rain for us. Lays the Misty, cracks it, shuffling away the Leyline. Now there are 4 Leylines still in Todd's deck. This gives him a 5th mana to hardcast Force of Will. Tim draws. Does he have the answer to a Force of Will and a threat?
Let's reanimate, which gets
Force of Will.
Is there an Inkwell Leviathan in his yard? Or some sort of a Jing attacks is something that's truly threatening with Jason on the board? I assume there must be, since there was multiple tombs cast this game.
Doctor. Counterbalance. Ding, 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 ding.
This may make things pretty rough for Tim. Though I don't believe, I don't know what he actually has that he can get out of this with. There's multiple 2s on top of Todd's deck. He has the top, so he is a 2 and a 1. We're going to see a Tarmogoyf come down. Counterbalance sends something to the bottom. I wonder what that might be.
Oh,
nope,
he
not to
changed
the
his
bottom.
mind.
Just kidding. That's a card that doesn't matter. Oh,
Echoing Truth
on Counterbalance.
I believe there's still a Tarmogoyf in those top 3. There it is.
It was on top, but gotta check.
Let's make sure. I mean, if you're not sure and you got the mana,
Yeah.
you know.
That's the amount of time that I have spent in Legacy when I'm playing a Counterbalance deck going, was that really the order I put them in? The amount of mana I've spent. It's just like, I think so, but let's be sure.
You know, I actually wouldn't mind Sensei's Divining Top if there were just less shufflers that would run with it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that dramatically makes Sensei's Divining Top worse, but it just takes so long. So long. Please, Todd, just please cast the Tarmogoyf. End Tim's misery.
Does he have another 2?
No, he put it in his hand. That was not correct to take that into his hand.
I mean, has he... What's...
Once he decided to draw the Tarmogoyf, it was not... not...
Did he Fate Seal? What?
He Fate Sealed Tim.
Okay.
Yeah,
What?
Exhume.
What? Wow. I'm sort of lost about what's
Tim might
happened
win
here.
it
Tim
if
might
Todd
just
doesn't
get-
draw a 2.
That Tarmogoyf should never have hit his hand.
That Tarmogoyf should have stayed on top of the library, safeguarding this game.
Yeah, wow. This Exhume may just resolve.
we'll have to see what the luck of the top of his deck shows us.
I see what you did there. The top of his deck. So now Todd needs a 2 when he previously just had a Goyf waiting safely. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. There's
There
a
it
Goyf,
is.
So
how
remains
lucky.
safe. Well,
BLTG.
now this game is probably over. Now Todd correctly said so he has a 1 and a 2 remaining. And now, thanks to drawing that Tarmogoyf, he has a faster clock.
Maybe Todd will just main phase Brainstorm and cast another
I mean,
Tarmogoyf.
as we've been saying all day, the Legacy is an incredibly complex format, and there are lots of little interactions like the order in which you leave cards on top of your library, and if you can let yourself draw them. So they had an extension from that ruling, but the game is over. Tim Lyons concedes. Todd Anderson wins the match, 2-1 on the back of Counterbalance.
Counterbalance.
And Jace. Jace was a big player in that game.
And we saw the game kind of fall to pieces when Tim Lyons, he puts a show and tell